All right. Welcome back, Wayfarer. Let's get ready to go live in 5, 4, 3, 2. All right. Just getting everything set up, everyone. If you'd like to take a moment to settle in and get ready to enjoy the show, maybe give a shout out in the live chat. Let me know where you're from and what you love. Where are you tuning in from tonight, Wayfarer? All right. Frank Monday coming at you. Grand Wizard of the Esoteric Order of Dagon, self-appointed. Welcome back, Wizard, Warrior, Wanderer, and Wayfarer alike. Wherever you are, whoever you are, and whenever you may be receiving this transmission, good magic to you. I'm broadcasting to you from the Central Kingdom of the Celestial Dragon, Twilight Zone, Old Peking, far behind the bamboo firewall. A transmission of arcane power coming out from a crystal pyramidion across the vast sea level plain to every quarter of the realm. Thank you for tuning in, Wayfarer. We're going live once again like Finnegan, so if you've got a yen to expand your kin, then get zen with me, baby. You and me. Doing it one more time. Today we're asking the question, do we define life too narrowly? Yeah. What parameters have you set up for yourself? What inhibitions are holding you back? What chains still bind you to the material realm? And being bound is something we're all interested in going forward into the future. I'm sure everyone would like to find the tools for breaking free of the chains of bondage. I would ask you at this time, Wayfarer, to please hit the like button if you do enjoy the show. If it's your first time, don't let it be your last time. Check back often, hit the like button. Keep the old algobots barking like Pavlov's dog, because aren't we all just barking for the machine? So the questions I wanted to start today's show with are, do we define life too narrowly? Are you stuck in a box of your own creation, or possibly of someone else's creation, right? And how do you define the roles in your life? And are they too constrictive? Would you like to break free? Maybe you would like to take a step back and clearly examine the parameters that you've put around yourself and discover whether or not those things are holding you back from a life of greater spiritual fulfillment. Join me in the exploration of boundaries and inhibitions that might be holding you back. From the description box, greetings, Wayfarer. By the light of the North Star, our paths do cross on a grand and mysterious adventure towards spiritual cultivation. The Universal Concourse of all souls in reunion with Source is our destination. From the depths of the Fathomless Cavern to the Spectral Abodes of the Underdark, through the chambers of endless echoes in the Labyrinth of Shattered Mirrors, up the Ladder of Ascent to the Ledge of Revelation, onward and upward, beyond Dreamland, to the Celestial Realm and the Timeless Homeland. Join me, Wayfarer, on the fool's journey from a naive awareness to the heights of spiritual mastery. And please help me by subbing up and sharing out the show. Maybe get other people to sub. I got to reach 1,000, or I don't gotta do anything, right? But I'd like to. I'm so close at 918 subs. I just need a few more folks to push me over the goalpost that's set up by the old boob tube here. You know, then I might be able to do a little more with the channel, right? Start to move in the direction of getting some sort of recognition and possible funding to buy and expand, make purchases. It was like dear Wayfarers yourself that had visited me on buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday and put a little something in the tip jar that I was able to get this wonderful microphone. And I also have a Bluetooth headsets. And I even bought a little off-platform webcam and some other things that have helped improve the show. Of course, we all invest tons of time, energy, and talent into the things we love. And yeah, I would encourage you to do that if you're able to. I always like to start the show with what I have dubbed the Adoration of Abraxas. It comes to us from the Arbitel of Magic. And the copy that I first read was transliterated by Arthur Edward White of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Notoriety. So if you know it, Wayfarer, say it with me. Hail unto thee who are... Sorry. That's the Liber Resh morning one. Hail unto thee who art on thy rising. So I launched off on the wrong foot there. That's okay. It is... Holy art thou, Lord of the universe, the vast and the mighty one, creator of heaven and earth, maker of all things visible and invisible, master of both the light and the darkness, he who was, is, and shall be. We adore thee and we invoke thee. Send us one of your divine spiritual agents, our holy guardian angel, to protect and guide us through the innumerable snares of the earthly sphere, and a cleansing wind to disperse all negativity and endless human opinion. Teach us those secret things which we must know for the completion of the great work and the glory of thine ineffable name, Adonai. So it is commanded and confirmed. So mote it be. Amen. Yeah, Amun Ra, good magic. Remember, O neophyte, goodness alone is power, silence is strength, will regaineth omnipotence, and love lieth at the foundation. And with no further ado, Wayfarer, I'm going to play the old Frank Monday intro. It's about 3 minutes long, which is too long, but that gives me a minute to set up my coffee and a couple of other tasks I need to do behind the scenes. So please sit back and take a moment to enjoy. And once again, I invite you to add your comments to the comment section so I know where you're tuning in from, who you are, where you are, that kind of thing. You don't have to dox yourself, but give me some generalities. Are you on the North American continent, the South American continent, the great Asiatic continent? Maybe you're up in the Mongolian North, or in the southeastern Pacific, down in the south, or maybe you're out in Europe, Africa. You could be anywhere in the world. Did I miss anyone? Yeah, Oceania. Sometimes I have folks tuning in from Oceania. So with no further ado, brief Frank Monday intro while I take care of a couple of things behind the scenes. Here it is here. Productions coming at ya.
Okay guys, our next comedian, it's a bit of a treat, to be honest. It is a bit of a treat. He's been away for 3 years. He is now back from the dead. Well, America. Give a big round of applause for Frank Monday.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that shit. Nick's a good man. You know what that's like, being a good man. It's tough in a fucking city like this, though. You know, nobody gives a fuck. They're like, God damn, that's some crazy shit. Motherfucker wearing high heels and shit. Looking good, too, huh? Yeah, you guys like that. That's all right. It's okay to fall down occasionally. I do that sometimes. All right, being back in the G is pretty fucking nerve-wracking. You know, performing for 4 minutes straight. The only other time I get this anxious when I gotta perform for 4 minutes straight is when I gotta make love to my wife.
Onion ring. Yeah, they're all right.
Hey, be watching for the Star Wars blog Rebellion coming out in December. You'll love it. It's follow-up to the award-winning Generations. Oh yeah. There you go, Frank.
Here's my burger. All right. That kind of sets the tone for the show right there. That's old Frank Monday hanging out in Huntington Beach, California. My hometown originally. Well, I'm not exactly from Huntington, but Los Angeles County. That's where I was born and raised, born and bronzed, as we like to say back then, because we was getting tan, hanging out on the beach. Lots of beach stories, man, growing up at the ocean, surfing every day. It's kind of a thing, kind of a jam, kind of a big deal. I enjoyed it, a good part of my childhood. Y'all good-looking, sexy people are from somewhere too, right? And you travel all over the great realm that we're in. You get all into different kinds of places in the four quarters of the earth, right across this great sea level plain, wherever you are, whoever you are, and whenever you are receiving this transmission. Let me know a little bit about your story, because that's what it's all about here on Frank Monday, is the story of individuation and how you've cultivated the ego to represent yourself in the world, right? How are you defining those things which define you, right? What kind of boxes are you putting yourself in? Like me, for example, I consider myself to be a magician, first and foremost, in the tradition of angelic magic, like Jesus the Christ was, great magician, Moses, King Solomon, lots of different folks in the Bible who were magicians and practiced magic, angelic magic, the magic of Solomon, right? Solomonic magic, one of the greatest forms. Of course, there are many different schools of thought in the realm of magic these days, but the magician's role in breaking through the boundaries and the chains that bind, right? So in the path of the magician, one of the first things you do is break through the basic idea of returning to oneness, unity and oneness, right? Take a deep breath, inhale, hold it for 3, 2, 1, and then relax and get yourself in the moment with some natural rhythmic breathing. And then you realize that oneness, and as it separates, heaven and earth are spontaneously manifest, right? And that's the first great divide, the Tai Chi. So the yin-yang symbol represents one of the first obstacles in balancing the oscillation of energy back and forth, left and right brain, up and down, day to night, woman and man, cool and hot, right? All those oscillations are on similar spectrums and frequencies. So if you're in the frequency of love, you're at the opposite end of the frequency of fear. And as our great guru here in the Panelverse, Jack Talcott, would say, right, that's what it's all about, is living without fear. And that brings you closer to love and truth and being in the presence of God, right? God the Father. And the mother, the expression at the top of the supernal triad of the Hermetic tree of life is just that. It's Keter, Hokmah, and Binah. So we have Hokmah and Binah that are serving as mother and father God, and then Kether, the expression of the divine child. So there you have it there. That's a little bit of a background on what I got going on. But what have you got going on, Wayfarer? You know, how is it that you practice, and have you defined your life too narrowly? Maybe you'd like to make some breakthroughs. One great way that I make breakthroughs is with prayer and meditation, and of course, Chinese Qigong and magic as well, right? But I wanted to offer up to you today as I unravel some of the knots, Gordian knots here tied in my environment. The Invocation of Thoth, read for you by Grand Wizard of the Inherited Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Israel Regardi. Please enjoy. This brief reading by Israel Regardi. Right, it looks a lot like me. Might be a brother from another mother. Never know. This might be my dad here. Yeah, is a wonderful thing, and it lasts approximately 5 minutes, and then I'll be right back with you. So sit back and enjoy. Take a deep breath. Merge with the moment. Hold for 3, 2, 1, relax. Command yourself to relax, letting go of all vexation, irritation, annoyance, and negativity, and just living in the moment. Please enjoy.
Invocation of Thoth. Procul, o procul esti profani, qual lasti ompeda. In the name of the mighty and terrible one, I proclaim that I have banished the shells unto their habitations. I invoke Tahuti, the Lord of wisdom and of utterance, the God that cometh forth from the veil. O thou majesty of the Godhead, wisdom-crowned Tahuti, Lord of the gates of the universe, thee I invoke. O thou of the ibis head, thee I invoke. Thou who wieldest the wand of double
All right. I had a delivery at the door, and it seemed to have cut me off. So let me reload that invocation of Tahuti. I was bringing it to you, and it got interrupted by a delivery here in the Happy Land. So I had to go there. It's interesting to me that when someone shows up at the door, that suddenly my internet connection will disconnect. It's done that before, so yeah. When people walk in front of they break the stream somehow. Very interesting to me. With no further ado, let's get right back into it, guys.
Invocation of Thoth. Procul, o procul esti profani, qual lasti ompeda. In the name of the mighty and terrible one, I proclaim that I have banished the shells unto their habitations. I invoke Tahuti, the Lord of wisdom and of utterance, the God that cometh forth from the veil. O thou majesty of the Godhead, wisdom-crowned Tahuti, Lord of the gates of the universe, thee I invoke. O thou of the ibis head, thee I invoke. Thou who wieldest the wand of double power, thee I invoke. Thou who bearest in thy left hand the rose and cross of light and life, thee I invoke. Thou whose head is as an emerald, and thy nemesis as the night sky blue, thee I invoke. Thou whose skin is of flaming orange as though it burned in a furnace, thee I invoke. Behold, I am yesterday, today, and the brother of tomorrow. I am born again and again. Mine is the unseen force whereof the gods are sprung, which is as life unto the dwellers in the watchtowers of the universe. I am the charioteer of the east, lord of the past and of the future. I see by mine own inward light, Lord of resurrection, who cometh forth from the dusk, and my birth is from the house of death. O ye two divine hawks upon your pinnacles, who keep watch over the universe, ye who company the bier to the house of rest, who pilot the ship of wrong, ever advancing onwards the heights of heaven, Lord of the shrine which standeth in the center of the earth. Behold, he is in me, and I in him. Mine is the radiance wherein Ptah floateth over the firmament. I travel upon high. I tread upon the firmament of new. I raise up flashing flame with the lightning of mine eye, ever rushing on in the splendor of the daily glorified Ra, giving my life to the dwellers of earth. If I say, come up upon the mountains, the celestial waters shall flow at my word. For I am Ra incarnate, Kefra, created in the flesh. I am the eidolon of my father Tamu, Lord of the city of the sun. The God who commands is in my mouth. The God of wisdom is in my heart. My tongue is the sanctuary of truth, and a guard sitteth upon my lips. My word is accomplished every day, and the desire of my heart realizes itself as that of Ptah when he createth his works. I am eternal, therefore all things are as my designs, therefore do all things obey my word. Therefore do thou come forth unto me from thine abode in the silence, unutterable wisdom, or light, or power. So, Hermes, Mercury, Odin, by whatever name I call thee, thou art still nameless to eternity. Come thou forth, I say, and aid and guard me in this work of art. Thou, star of the east, that didst conduct the Magi, thou art the same all present in heaven and in hell. Thou that vibratest between the light and the darkness, rising, descending, changing ever, yet ever the same. The sun is thy father, thy mother the moon. The wind hath borne thee in its bosom, and earth hath ever nourished the changeless Godhead of thy youth. Come thou forth, I say, come thou forth, and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of roaring air and of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God the vast one may be obedient unto me.
So it is commanded and confirmed. So mote it be. Amen. All right, it's good magic right there. Hail unto thee who art raw in thy rising, even unto thee who art raw in thy strength, who travellest over the heavens at the uprising of the sun. Tahuti, Lord of Magic, standeth in his splendor at the prow, and Rahor abideth at the helm. Hail unto thee from the abodes of the night. Good magic and good looking out, everyone. I hope you're doing well out in Happy Land. I dropped the link if anybody's interested in coming on board. Just let me know. Put it down there in the chat box. Like I said a moment ago, it looked like Rose was out there in Happy Land. So if you're still out there, Rose, and you're interested in coming on live, just let me know and I will drop the link for you, my dear. Good to see you. Rose777, guys, if you don't know, he has a YouTube channel here. Has a channel here on YouTube. You can check it out. You just, I believe it'd be www.youtube.com/@Rose777. And then you could find that. She's got a lot of good transmissions going on over there. Really wonderful things. Tons of wonderful offerings available on her channel. So yeah, as always, cross-promoting, right? Cross-pollinating is what it's all about. It's what I enjoy doing here on the Frank Monday channel. With no further ado as well, I'm going to introduce you guys to some Alan Watts. You may or may not be familiar with him. I'm going to do a hypnotic induction a little bit later in the show, guys, probably close to the first hour. But first, I wanted to ask those defining questions that I've got in the description box, which if you haven't read, right? Do we, and I wanted to start off by defining the we collective, right? A lot of people use this in even an NLP fashion, and I try to tend to avoid it because the only we got going on here is me, myself, and I, and the mouse in my pocket, right? Unless, of course, you are a member of the Esoteric Order of Dagon Eastern Star Division, which is my temple here in Twilight Zone, Old Peking. If you are a member of that, then you may, in fact, include yourself in the collective of which I speak. But yeah, basically just me, myself, and I, and the fish in my pocket, the salamander in my pocket. But the we that oftentimes is used in the public sphere tries to include you covertly, right, in a collective of which you are not a part, right? Certainly we're a part of the whole collective of humanity, but it was not I who did those things of the past, and I was not involved in that we. And when it's defined in an arbitrary manner where it's not clearly defined, then it may, in fact, include you in some nefarious or dubious things, which with you were not a part, right? The you in you. A lot of people are, they're out there rallying against the ego, the process of individuation, the persona. They talk about the shadow, right? And all these other various aspects of the self. But they tend to ignore that our personality is one of the few things with which we have possession and can cultivate over time. It was taught to me through the Eastern tradition of esoteric Chinese Taoism that the personality, in fact, is the one thing you take with you from lifetime to lifetime, from incarnation to incarnation. So if you've got a good personality, that's true gold, right? The personality is true gold. So how do you define that persona, that personality of with which you identify and move through the world? Obviously, you're going to wear lots of different hats, right? You're going to be son or daughter, brother or sister. You're going to be mom or dad, possibly aunt or uncle, cousin. Yeah. Grandfather, grandmother. Maybe you're playing the role of crossing guard in public or a bank teller. Maybe like myself, you work as an educator in academia, right? Maybe you're a police officer. Any one of those roles attempts to narrowly define you, right? Put you in a box, as it were. Some people say, I'm a Christian. And it's, well, then you're self-limiting, right? You're stuck in a Christian box. Or if you're a self-proclaimed atheist, yeah, then you've limited yourself to the aspect of life, which is no spirit, no God. I mean, how debilitatingly narrowly defining that is, right? So you might ascribe to the doctrine and dogma of atheism, but why do you have to be an atheist? And so this gets us into the idea of the exploration of E prime language, or nothing is nothing, right? You can't narrowly define that something is something else. A is not in fact B, but A may be likened to C or D by way of its attributes. So we try to stay within the realms of seems as if and is likened to, right? Or has the attributes of, or can more better be understood by definition of its contrast, rather than something is something else, right? So I like to attribute to myself magician, kung fu practitioner, scholar, wanderer, right? All these different things, but none of those narrowly define who I am. So I ask those simple questions. Are you stuck in a box of your own creation? And have you defined the roles in your life too narrowly? Now, the path of the magician, which you may not be familiar with, is just that. It's breaking free from the chains that bind you, whether it be the yin yang, right? The tai chi of the original dichotomy, the separation of heaven and earth, or the 5 elemental organs that produce your emotions. Are emotions in control of you, or are you in control of your emotions? Because it's definitely important to feel as an individuated human being. You feel love and happiness and sadness. You sometimes feel anger or envy. And all of those things are natural flowings of the subtle energy within the body. The thing is to avoid going to extremes. Don't let your anger ignite the battle of a war. At the same time, don't let your joy ignite the indulgence of anything, right? The indulgence of giving too much, right? Or being naive, and the various types of things. So you can easily see how this works, right? The next level would be the octahedron, or within what we're looking at here, it's the chains of karma, or what the Hindus represented in karma, which is entirely absent from the Chinese esoteric Tao original perspective. They had no idea of karma. They didn't define anything by means of karma. And I like the way that Alan Watts addresses it, because he's definitely a more learned scholar in the ways of Hinduism than I am, because I've never even looked into it. I heard about this karma thing from the New Age movement you guys hear online and stuff, and I'm like, what is this karma thing you guys talk about? It seems like a fantasy. And Alan Watts brings it forward that yes, it is in fact just that. It's entirely a fantasy, and it should not dictate anything in human life. So as a magician, you can work to break free of that narrow definition. With no further ado, let's bring Alan Watts to the stage.
You know, we grow up with the feeling that life is a sort of moral account book, that somewhere, somehow, there is a balance kept. Do good, and you will be rewarded. Do ill, and the world will, in its own time, find you out.
Yeah, so I'll be doing commentary throughout, and if you'd like to join me, once again, just say hello, and I'll pop the link in there for you. Yeah, do good and you will be rewarded. Do ill and you will be punished, right? This is the first formation of this prime material plane that we start to encounter and learn from, right? If we do good things, people praise us and cheer. And if we do bad things, then people chastise and admonish us, right? So within the Taoist tradition, this is the same and being one-sided, right? Pushing ahead and lagging behind are both missing the middle. And so stick to the middle, that's all there is, right? Stick to the Tao. Do not be elevated when folks praise you, and do not be saddened when people chastise you. Just learn from both, right? Don't let the emotions flow too extreme in either direction, right? Gain and loss is what forms the bounds of the chains. It's what starts to enchain you with this idea of karma.
It is an idea we hear whispered in childhood stories, echoed in the warnings of our elders, and it clings to us as a kind of invisible rule. And yet, look closely. There are rogues who prosper and saints who perish in misery. There are those who give nothing but kindness and receive only cruelty in return.
Right. So he's starting to wake us up to these ideas of the responsive nature of the cosmos, and it may not work out the way you think it's going to, right? Like, is my microphone even freaking turned on? Yeah, it seems to be, but it doesn't seem to be that my voice is being heard, that my transmission is clear. Let me check the feedback loop, guys, real quick here on the old YouTubes. I got the okay, yeah, it looks like it's coming through, but I don't see my little icon changing at all. All right, that's okay. Yeah, so you see bad guys winning at the game of life, right? And then you see guys who are promoting a great message, maybe like our beloved spiritual guru Jack here on the Panelverse here on YouTube, right? Jack Talcott, guys, check him out if you don't know him already. Just Jack, Jack, and the Talcott, Talcott, Jack Talcott. Every day he does a live stream transmission, right, and can support the community and help people to work through some of these chains that bind you. He's got a very wonderful story. You can learn more about it there on his channel, right? Like overcoming alcoholism and anger management. And he's been through various programs of training, and he works as a life coach for folks in and offline, right? Online and offline. So yeah, I've had a lot of experiences with him, both in the realm of online and offline. And it's a wonderful thing. Very, very different experiences, but the offline ones, you could have real growth sessions. And so you might look into his website, jacktalcott.com, or I believe, no, I'm sorry, it's livewithoutfear.com. I believe that's correct. I'll double check and then put it in the pinned comment later, guys. But yeah, you could schedule some life counseling sessions with him or with me as well. I like to do spiritual counseling, tarot readings, life readings, birth chart interpretation, all of that stuff. You could check me out at buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday. You could schedule a hypnosis session today, or a tarot reading, spiritual consultation, or even a ritual initiation. Let's go ahead and get back to Alan Watts, guys, and how he's setting up this preemptive definition of the groundwork in which we're going to utilize to break free of those bounds. Let's see if I can come up with another word. Chains that bind, bounding things that bind us to the world, right? And not being able to make spiritual breakthroughs, inhibition, hobbles, barriers, parameters, all of those various things. Let's get a little more into it.
I have even heard people cry to God, asking what terrible thing they must have done in some past life to deserve a present life of such pain. And that, I think, is the saddest part, to suffer twice, once from the blow of life, and again from the belief that you must have somehow earned it. We have taken a living idea and turned it into a cosmic bookkeeping system, as though the universe were a merchant, tallying debts and credits. But the world does not work like a market, and the soul is not a ledger. What we call karma, in this popular sense, is only a comforting superstition, not the truth of things. Strictly speaking, the Sanskrit word karma simply means action.
I think it's important here to take a moment to reflect on he's bringing forward the idea and definition of what is this karma thing that the Hindus spoke of, right? And originally in Sanskrit, it says here again, Alan Watts, a very important scholar of Taoism and Hinduism and Buddhism that lived here in the East. I'm not sure if he lived in China. I think he lived in Southeastern Asia. I don't know. I have to do research. I don't know. I'm not going to make any claims that I do know. But I have been here in the Grand Orient, right? The school of the Great Eastern Star for 25, going on 26 years now, guys. And yeah, I'm more than halfway to 100 now, and it's looking good, right? So I've done a lot of these preliminary studies. I read a lot of Alan Watts when I was actually in junior high, token smoking and riding the waves out in sunny Southern California. So he was a big influence on my youth, and I studied simultaneously Hermetic sciences and Taoism. I thought that they were very similar, and I was suspicious that all of the Hermetic information, right, like with your 4 Kabbalistic elements, had actually come from China, where they have 5 elements in their rotation. Of course, the Hermetic one does as well, but it includes one aspect of spirit, whereas the Chinese system of esoteric Taoism has 5 primary pure elements. It's wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, right? So it's very similar. It includes the 4, but it adds the optional element of metal, which I guess could be considered the mercurial element of spirit in the Western tradition, right? But there's no direct correlation, but it is very, very similar. And so I was, in fact, suspicious that it came from the Orient originally.
Or activity, from the root Kri, to do. It is, in its plainest sense, the fact of doing something. But in popular Indian thinking, it came to bear a more particular meaning, much like the Western idea of causality. It was said that if you fare well in this life, it must be for the good things you have done before. If badly, then for the wrongs you have committed. This was not merely an opinion among many, but the very atmosphere of the culture. It was the unquestioned order of things, as self-evident to them as the rising of the sun. And from this seed grew the vast structure of belief in cause and effect, and the shaping of destiny through one's deeds. In the older traditions of India, whether Hindu, Buddhist, or Jain, karma was woven into a greater vision of the world. It was not only the notion that actions bear fruit, but that these fruits extend beyond the span of a single life. Intentional deeds, it was said, determine the conditions into which one is born again and again, in the endless cycle known as samsara. Thus, the aim of the yogin, the monk or the devout layman, was to act in such a way as to generate no further karma, to bring the wheel of birth and death to a halt. And so liberation, whether called moksha or nirvana, was imagined as the final release from this ceaseless round.
And I'd like to point out that these ideas did, in fact, influence the Oriental school of thought. But prior to the Oriental school of thought, they did not think in these terms, right? There was no idea of karma. There was what is known as the subtle arbiter, and it was a direct result on the individual being that other people couldn't see, right? So this kind of karmatic idea didn't play out throughout society's observational ability. So as a result, the Taoists didn't consider that in fact. They considered the subtle nature of the universe and that there was a retributive force, but they did not define it as karma and thus didn't interact with it in the same way. And additionally, the idea of spirituality and the spiritual cosmos was a very different thing to the ancient Oriental in China, and that there were cultivations of internal subtle energies, and it wasn't in breaking through karma, again, because it was discounted, it wasn't included. It was through the alchemical process of refining internal subtle energies to actually give birth to spirit, to give birth, man or woman, to a spiritual body with which you could transfer consciousness into and survive with spiritual immortality. And in fact, the various levels in Taoism, they defined various levels of spiritual bodies that you could give birth to, like the body of pure light, which includes some etheric and astral aspects, and then the rainbow body, which transcends that and dwells within the celestial sphere. There were other forms that were much more enduring and higher level, with which we don't talk about openly because they're secret within the tradition. You can find out more about them yourself, even on Wikipedia these days, right? So it's not a big deal. It's not necessarily hidden or occulted anymore, but it is still esoteric, and young aspirants and even master magicians are not encouraged to just speak about it openly with the public. But then there are lower level manifestations of this too. You could give birth to elemental spirits that would dwell and surround you, say, for example, in your garden, right? You could unify yourself with a geographical location, like a tropical climate, and in the ocean, in the Caribbean, and give birth to a type of spiritual mermaid entity that you could transfer your consciousness into at death and survive there among various beautiful environments and so on and so forth. These were called natural shins or natural fairies. And for some reason, I am really losing internet connection here. Good God, I'm going to set up an Ethernet cable at my next location. Hopefully I get a next location, right? Everything's changed since I went on vacation and I come back to the academy and they're like, oh, this or that might not be available. Or, so there's some obstacles there to overcome. I'll go ahead and continue with it, guys, and let Alan Watts guide us a little further into this transmission.
For to be free of karma was to be free of the necessity to live again. Most interpreters, both Eastern and Western, have taken this aim quite literally, as if, by certain disciplines of mind and conduct, one could alter the actual machinery of the universe and step forever outside the reach of birth and death. They have imagined that by ceasing to create karma, the chain would be broken and the soul would pass into some unconditioned state. But I suggest something rather different, that what truly happens in the depth of such practice is the discovery that the whole scheme of karma and rebirth is an idea, a pattern of thought, and not a fact imposed upon us from without. Liberation, then, is not an escape from a real bondage, but the awakening from a dream of bondage. The wheel stops turning because it was never moving except in the mind. We must remember that for those who lived within this ancient vision, it was not a matter of choice. No one sat down to decide whether karma and rebirth were true. These ideas were simply the shape of the world, as certain to them as the firmness of the ground beneath their feet. It was the very air they breathed. In much the same way, medieval Europeans knew that the heavens were made of crystal spheres, or that the earth was flat. Such things were not debated.
Yeah, now it's interesting how he should mention this, that the earth were flat. The earth was flat, right? He said it in the past tense. And that the heavens, the celestial dome, was made of crystal spheres, right? Now he's going to start to deviate away from this and come into the modern scientific way of thinking that we live in a so-called solar system, right? But as we're seeing nowadays, this idea doesn't necessarily play out, right? It's not even tangibly provable by physics, and things like the moon are a complete enigma, right? So you can hold this in abeyance as he goes through it, but he states it as like certified natural fact that we now understand these things, right? We're also lofty and grand in our modern interpretations, right? And so Alan Watts was definitely a scholar of the mainstream idea and its transmission that was available at his time, right? Whereas nowadays, I think we're making even greater breakthroughs in finding out about, the old world of Tartaria and the possible global resets. And if not, that there may have in fact been and probably was a planar wide culture that existed at one time. And none of this was apparent to these guys, 50, 60 years ago. So I think that we've made progress. Yes, good to see you, Rose77. I just gave a shout out for your channel. And I believe that your channel would just be straight up www.youtube. Oh no, someone's calling me on the telephone. How dire. That's typically my wife, guys. I'm going to let Alan Watts play for a little while, guys, as I answer the phone. I'll be right back.
They were given. And because they were given, to think otherwise was scarcely possible. This is why to awaken from such a view is never a small thing. It is to loosen the very frame through which reality is seen, a frame so ancient and familiar that one hardly notices it is there at all. In our own history, we have seen how certain visions of the world quietly fade. One can never prove that there are no angels in the sky, no throne of gold, no weighing of souls after death. Yet such images, for many, have lost their force. They grow faint, not because they are disproved, but because they no longer fit with the shape of the world as we now see it. For the same reason, the old Indian cosmology, with its intricate laws of karma and rebirth, can come to seem unnecessary. It does not fit the scale, either in measure or in meaning, of the world as it is now understood. And when a story no longer serves to explain, it falls away of its own accord. Thus, as science in the West dissolved Dante's heavens, so in the East, the deeper insight of meditation can dissolve the cosmos of karma. Karma, even within the ancient teaching, can be heard in two different keys. In the common ear, it is the law of cause and effect, one thing following another, as a cart follows the ox. This is the view of events in sequence. A deed here, a result there, stretched out along the thread of time. But there is another way to hear it, not as a chain of causes, but as the simple fact of action itself, in which doing and its consequence are one and the same.
All right, yeah, good stuff, Alan Watts. So sorry about that, guys. I got a little call from my wifey poo. She's got to pick the kids up, and they were sleeping in today because today's Sunday, August 24th, 2025, here in the Central Kingdom of the Celestial Dragon, Twilight Zone, Old Peking, Frank Monday, Grand Wizard of the Esoteric Order of Dagon, Grand Orient Division of the Eastern Star, broadcasting to you from behind the bamboo firewall, atop a crystal pyramidion, out over the expansive sea level plain in your direction. So if you're under the Great Dome, the Celestial Vault, or the starry canopy, as it were, and you're receiving this message, Wayfarer, welcome to you, wherever you are, whoever you are, and whenever you are receiving this transmission. Keep doing good magic, guys. And Alan Watts here, he was discussing with us this idea that subject and object are not necessarily separated by that verb, or that we're verbing in between the two, right? We have the left and the right oscillations of the thinker and the prover, the engineer and the gardener, right? Or artiste. And so we have that analytical engineering side of the brain that's thinking up the machinations of our realm. And then we have the artistic gardening type creative aspect of the mind that's trying to bring those things into fruition. So as Robert Anton Wilson defined in Prometheus Rising, his seminal book of mind change, right? That one side is the thinker and the other side is the prover, right? So the thinker thinks up the machinations and the prover goes out there to see if he's right or wrong. And so a wonderful thing. Let's enjoy a little more of Alan Watts as we transition into the abodes of the future, right? We're nearing the 1 hour mark, guys. We might only be able to go an hour today. And if so, I'll let you know and I'll sign off with a prayer. But if not, we'll continue into the second hour where I will do a hypnotic induction for you guys. I'm really excited to walk you through it. It's a bit of path working. So if you're receiving this video at a later time, right, you're not able to join me now here in the present, it's going to be wonderful for the aspiring neophyte to pass once again through the gossamer veil that separates the tangible and tangible physical plane from the subtle metaphysical realms, right? And as it grows ever thinner as we approach the hallowed autumn equinox, I'm going to be launching into, guys, once again, like Finnegan, the 100-day challenge. This one's going to be focused on internal alchemy. So stay tuned for that. I hope you are able to join me, and I hope we're able to get to that this evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever, whenever you're tuning in.
It is the way a figure belongs to its background, or a wave to the sea. They are distinct enough to speak of, yet they arise together, inseparable. In this second sense, karma is not something you have or make. It is the pattern of happening itself, here and now. The notion that one event must bring about another is so woven into our thinking that we hardly notice it. We speak of causes and effects as though there were some invisible force driving the world along, a kind of ghostly necessity compelling things to happen. But if we look closely, we find that what we call cause is often only a way of arranging our description. The falling of a tree and the sound it makes are not two separate happenings joined by a mysterious link. They are two ways of speaking about one and the same process.
Yeah, so it's interesting that he takes this idea of multi-model approach, right, that I use in my practice, and which I learned from Prometheus Rising, right, that wonderful book by Dr. Bob. And you can find out more about it. Just check it out, guys. Look up the word. You don't need me to guide you through it. You can guide yourself through it. It's a workbook on mind change, right? Paradigm shifting. I think he's the one that brought that idea forward originally. Let's see, he quoted a lot of Carl Jung and Freud and even Timothy Leary and other people who were agents of change and making breakthroughs. But viewing things through various lenses, and as we accumulate descriptions, right, and then people try to narrowly focus things on a single individual given causation, but it's not. There's so many factors involved that you have to take. I found that if you take the approach of the elemental system, right, using the 5 elements in Chinese Taoism into effect, then you're at least looking at the perceptive forces of your 5 primary senses. But then you also need to take into consideration the internal organic senses, right, that oscillate between logic and reason on the one hand, and then intuition and feeling on the other. And so it's this, and thank you, Rose. I see that. Yeah, I believe it's the way I'm trying to figure things out. Anyway, we've got this hippocampus in between, right, where the house of the pine cone is, the pineal gland, and then you're oscillating back and forth. And it's the idea of the middle path and not going to extremes is when you start to encounter actual reality, right? So I've always adopted this multi-model approach in causation, especially when dealing with paranormal phenomena and moments of high strangeness or apotheum and time dilation. So yeah, and I've been really lucky in my life that I've had a lot of really interesting paranormal encounters, and some may question those, but I've already questioned most of them and purged to the depths every hidden subtlety in many of these encounters. And I'm not looking at them as a layman. I'm looking at them as a scientist of spiritual science and hermetic science and esoteric Tao. It's the way I look at them and try to interpret what's been going on, right? And what's going on in this realm, because we're all involved in this grand journey. Yeah. If you remember the description here in the channel, right? Wayfarer, welcome back. By the light of the North Star, our paths have crossed once again on a grand and mysterious adventure towards spiritual cultivation and spiritual mastery and spiritual immortality as well. The Universal Concourse of all souls in reunion with Source is our destination. And from the depths of the Fathomless Cavern to the Spectral Abodes of the Underdark, through the chambers of endless echoes and the Labyrinth of Shattered Mirrors, up Jacob's Ladder of Ascent to the very ledge of revelation where a choir of angels sing out, onward and upward beyond Dreamland to the celestial realm and the Timeless Homeland, to meet with the secret chiefs at the Invisible College. That's where we're going on today's transmission, guys. So fucking strap on your seatbelt and get ready to soar through the astral realms with Alan Watts.
The must we imagine in nature is not in the wood or the wind, but in the habits of our thought. When this ghost is seen for what it is, the chain of necessity becomes less a law of nature and more a pattern in the mind. Consider the simple fact that living beings eat. We often say they must have food in order to live, as though there were two separate things, life here, food there, joined by some thread of necessity. But in truth, to live is already to be in the act of taking in the world, shaping it into oneself, and being shaped by it in turn. Hunger, too, is not some separate force driving the creature to its meal. It is simply the first taste of eating. And when food is lacking and the body dies, we may say, it died because it had no food. Yet this is only to describe the same event in another way. When we look closely, the word because begins to fade. What we took to be cause and effect is often nothing more than two faces of one happening.
Yeah, I'm glad that he pointed this out, because there was an ancient Alan Watts quote from, I think it was Zen Lessons. Maybe he didn't write Zen Lessons. Maybe that was Thomas Cleary. But he was actually translating and transliterating and elucidating on earlier German works. I don't believe a lot of these guys were, in fact, well versed in the Chinese language, which I've studied at length since I was a teenager. So I've got a good 40 years going into the study of the Chinese language, and 10 of those years at university, 6 in the United States, then 4 in a postgraduate program here in China. And some of that stuff can be a little bit tough to understand, right? Like, it took me about 15 to 20 years to really be able to read the Chinese classics with any level of serviceability. But what I wanted to bring forward was that he gave a lesson called Zen on Zen koans. And he said Zen, or Chan Buddhism, which the Chinese definition is Taoist Buddhism, is very easy to practice. And pay attention, because this is funny. It's very quippy. He said, when hungry, eat. When thirsty, drink. When tired, sleep. And then I added on to that, when horny, fuck. So get busy out there, you know. As one of the old Panelverse commentators here in YouTube land said, walk out with your hawk out, right? I believe that was What Up Cynthia. She said, giving advice to her son. What a funny thing, right? And sometimes humor is really important for breakthroughs, right? You get so stressed out sometimes on narrowly focusing in these asanas, right? These positions of yogic meditation, and you're really in it, right? You got your sutras, you know, you get your hands up in prayer in a sutra, and you're reciting the single mantra over and over and over again. There was a young neophyte aspirant in Buddhism who was put into a room, and he said, focus on imagining yourself to be a bull, right? To be a cow, a bull. And the young man focused on it day and night for several days, a week. And the monk would come back and check on him, and he'd say, how you doing in there? He'd say, yeah, I'm still focusing. And after, I don't know, a couple of weeks or a month or something, he came back in and he asked the young monk, how are you doing? And all he could do was moo, you know, and snort and growl. And he said, okay, you've achieved it. Now come out of the meditation room. And the monk couldn't get out, right? He's just shaking his head and bucking against the walls of his own imprisonment. And the monk said, why can't you get out? And the young aspirant said, my horns are too wide to fit through the door. And at that moment he woke up, and he had that spiritual awakening, right? That was all self-imposed. He'd put himself in this narrowly defined box of being a bull and mooing like a bull and chewing on cud and grass. And so have you trapped yourself in the box of being a bull or a cow or a Taoist or an atheist or any one of these given labels that we give ourselves? That's what it's all about here at the Frank Monday channel, guys, is making breakthroughs. And since we are a little more than halfway through the video and a little more than halfway through today's show, guys, I do need to make the updates. So yeah, channel break, guys, check me out. Grand Wizard of the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Frank Monday coming at you once again like Finnegan from the Central Kingdom of the Celestial Dragon, Twilight Zone, Old Peking, far behind the bamboo firewall. Join me on the upcoming 100-day challenge of Internal Alchemy, which is set to launch at September 22nd, the Grand Autumnal Equinox. Make sure you hit the like buttons, guys, for YouTube's algobots, and keep them barking like Pavlov's dog, right? Ruff, 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 because aren't we all just barking for the machine? And once again, please check me out at buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday. The syllabus for the 100-day challenge and all of the course material will be there, available free of charge on the Buy Me a Coffee website with the Frank Monday /Frank Monday to find your way there. And you can find all of the old 100-day challenges as well, whether it be Hypno, Apotheosis, or Pathways of the Magi, or the one we did in Lucid Dreaming and Astral Projection. I think I've done about 6 or 7 100-day challenges now, guys. So you can find out all about those there on the Buy Me a Coffee section. With no further ado, let's get back to Alan Watts, everyone. What a wonderful thing. What a treat, right? To be able to spend this time together and enjoy studying and learning. Wow, what a thing, man. I'm so happy that I could transmit today, guys, on this Sunday, August 24th, 2025. And yeah, because I start back to work tomorrow, which means that my my free time will be vastly limited. You know, I'm 50 to 60 hours a week in the office. And so that doesn't give me much time to hang out online. But today, guys, last day of vacay, I'm spending it with you here on YouTube. So blessings and welcome. Dr. D's in the chat room. Good to see you, Dr. D. How the hell are you? Dr. D head, he says, don't allow social engineers, technocrats, to convert the human being into a one-season creature. Yeah, what a thing. There goes the phone, guys. Again, guys, back to Alan Watts.
When we divide events into cause and effect, we imagine a bridge between them, something by which one is turned into the other. Yet this bridge is never found. How does the lack of food produce death? As if the absence of one thing could push another into being? It is rather that the absence of food is simply the same process as the ending of the organism, described from another side. The same puzzle appears when we speak of mind and body, as if they were two substances, one somehow influencing the other. We create a gap, and then are troubled at how it might be crossed. In this way, our explanations often deepen the mystery, instead of dissolving it. See this, and the chain of causation begins to look less like a law and more like a habit of dividing what was never a part. Take a stone in your hand and let it fall. We say it drops because of gravity, as if there was some invisible cord pulling it to the ground. But suppose you released it and it floated upward. We would not call it a stone at all, but perhaps a feather or a scrap of paper. For to fall when unsupported is simply part of what we mean by stone. In the same way, a sunflower turns its face to the sun, not because of some command from without, but because that is what it is to be a sunflower. A plant that did otherwise would be another kind of flower. So the must in nature is often not a force at all, but a matter of definition, our way of speaking, about what belongs to the very being of a thing. What we call necessity in nature is, more often than not, a necessity of thought. It belongs to the way we arrange the world in our minds, rather than to the world itself. A stone must fall, a fire must burn, but this must is not a power hidden in matter. It is the rule by which we choose to name things as stones or as fire. Logical necessity is of another kind. If all men are mortal, and Socrates is a man, then Socrates must be mortal. Not because the universe forces it so, but because it is bound in the meaning of the words. So too with many so-called laws of nature.
Yeah, so you can clearly see there how this semantic encouchment that we use really kind of somehow binds us. And it's when you start to study mysticism more that you can break through the ideation of the mind, right? This one conceptual level, and touch directly to the subtle energy, right? With symbols like the wanzi, which in China was used as a contemplative tool for many, many aeons, right? You see it in the Buddhas. They have this swastika on their chest. If you look at the pictures I just posted from a temple down south, and it was not seen as an evil thing. And in fact, that's a complete twisting of it. And people say, oh, it needs to go left, or it needs to go right, or it needs to be at this direction. That's not at all true. It oscillates in both directions, and it swirls. It's one of the great swirly power sources that we utilize in Tao for sending out cosmic seeds, right? To get magic done. And so if you limit yourself in thinking, oh, that's an evil thing, mainstream media tells me the swastika is bad, you know, like Jack Talcott, you know, sometimes breaks into that whiny little voice to try to wake people up. You know, he's working as a spiritual guru to try to break you free from that childlike mentality of I have to believe everything I've been force fed, right? It's so archaic, dogmatic and just mired in the doctrine of the past. Break free from the chains of the past and do not bind yourself with those self-limiting impositions of the chains of the future. Live in the now, experience time dilation and apotheum, and realize that you're already in the timeless homeland. And it's the discursive mind that blinds you from the celestial realm and the presence of God within your life. And you got to break out of that box, man. And that's what we're here to do. Do we define life too narrowly is the question of the day.
They are the regularities of the patterns by which we see, not the dictates of the world apart from our seeing. Imagine laying a sheet of graph paper over a flowing stream. The water does not know the lines are there, yet we can describe its movement in terms of squares and angles. So it is with the patterns by which we measure the world. Height, breadth, depth, the passing of hours. These are not rods and threads, woven into the fabric of nature. They are the grids we place upon it.
There you go. And Alan Watts was really descriptive. And when he first brought some of this information forward of, like, I believe it was Irdra's net. Again, I'm not a student of Hinduism. It doesn't influence in me. But there really is a gossamer web placed over the cosmos, especially by the mind of man, that tries to gridify and isolate everything, like drawing one of those pictures by the numbers, right? And he's pointing that out here, that the Satyrian realm, these Satyrian cults of mastery through time and obeyances to the great cube of Saturn, right? It's being trapped in a box. And those are the questions I'm presenting to you today, right? Are you trapped within the box of time and space? And are you limited by the conventions of man? Or have you broken free? You know, sometimes you need to do that and just get yourself good and drunk and pound your fists on the table and become a sexual outlaw in order to wander off that original encased path of enslavement in the material realm, in the realm of man. I'm not saying you should do that all the time, definitely not, but there's a time in life to embrace the shadow of your being and to learn to integrate it, right? It's just the other day, the spiritual guru Jack Talcott, life coach here on YouTube, he brought forward the idea, is it codependence or independence? And I jumped on his show because the Taoist thought system is that it's interdependence.
When we speak of the laws of nature, we are often speaking of the regularities of our own pattern, not of some hidden machinery in the world itself. Triangles, circles, measures of time. These are our ways of fitting the living movement into a form we can reckon with. The world does not need them to be what it is. It is we who need them to see.
Yeah, it's funny. This is a big one that when the atheists step bold, right? And they say, hey, I don't believe in God. God doesn't need you believe in him, right? So the funny thing is, what is the funny thing? Someone told me, I said, yeah, they asked me, they said, do you believe in God? I said, I don't need to believe in God. I know God, right? What does God need for my beliefs? And then they said, I don't believe in God. And I said, that's great. That's fine and dandy. God doesn't believe in you either, right? So again, it's the separation of subject and object by the verbing thing in the middle that's trying to discriminate. But we can even see intrinsic within the English language, we have subject, verb, object, right? And when you, in the Chinese language, they don't usually do that. They don't do that in the Japanese language either. They just verb object or just verbing, right? They don't have to reference themselves in saying that I sing, right? It's just, it is sung, or not even it. It's just song or sing song, right? This type of canter is much different from the Western way of thinking. And so it's really fun here when Alan Watts is bringing forward some hard-hitting truths, guys. I'm so fortunate that I woke up at a young age and got to study this stuff when I was a teenager. And there we go, the internet blacked out.
What we see. So if we speak of karma at all, let it be not as a ledger of debts and credits, but as the pattern of our being in relation to the whole. You may think of yourself as a kind of instrument, receiving the world and sending it out again in the same breath. Every tone you give forth is shaped by the world that formed you, and every tone you send shapes the world in return.
Yeah, and it's really important that he points this out, right? I heard Rose mention this just a few days ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago. I think it was before I went on vacation. So Rose77, you had mentioned this on Chats with Jack over at the Jack Talcott show, that we need to, and I think you get it. Like some of the things you've said, I've heard strike closer to truth, and my own way of interpreting, what's going on in this all these individuated human lives, right? And it's that people are separating themselves from the beauty of the celestial realm and the timeless homeland. And it's there for you at all times. It's that you might not be clearly seeing it. So how do we bring about an end to war? By working within our sphere of direct control. And as a magician, what are the things that we have direct control over? First and foremost, you should seize control of your thoughts. A lot of people engage in negative self-talk all the time and are, flame in this direction or that direction. And they don't realize that via the butterfly effect at a quantum physics level, right, they are creating the war in the world that they see, right? The truth of the world is whatever you believe to be true is true, at least for you, right? So how do you cease war? You cease war by ceasing to engage in battle. Right? And you have to do that at the individuated level in order for it to start to affect your family. And once your family can harmonize and be at a level where they're ceasing war within themselves and within the community, then like ripples on a lake, it spreads out to the state, the nation, and the world. So how do we bring about Tao on earth? By non-interference, focusing within your direct sphere of control, thoughts, words, and actions. Let there be no war in your thinking. Let there be no war in your words. Take words seriously. It's so important that the grand master guru of ancient Eastern mysticism, Alan Watts, is pointing this out. It's echoed timelessly throughout the wisdom of the Orient that words have power. They can affect even ghosts and spirits. They can change an individual or even a nation's fortune, and they should be respected. So many people are flippant and wishy-washy and careless in what they say, using absolutes and defining things so narrowly. When we have the tools, we have the modern tools, E-prime language, right? Avoiding absolutes. It's not everyone always doing these things. It's some of the folks or most of the folks or half the folks, right? You have to learn how to think and feel and breathe within the... You don't have to. I apologize. You can do whatever you want to do. But the path of the magician, the Taoist, scholar, warrior, wizard, warrior is just that. Learning the tools that break free from the chains of karma, the 5 elements, the yin yang, all of these things, the zodiac. These things must not bind the magician. You must work day and night to break free from the chains that bind you.
It is not that the universe waits to repay you in kind, but that what you are is the very manner in which the world appears to you. The music you play is the music you hear. The gesture you make is the gesture returned. In this sense, karma is not a law that stands over you. It is the reciprocity of being itself, present in every moment. To see karma in this way is to be free from the weight of an imagined judge. You are no longer bound to the thought that your joys and sorrows are payments from some unseen hand, nor to the fear that your every step is shaping an inescapable fate. The patterns we inherit, whether from the scriptures of the East or the sciences of the West, are not chains upon reality, but shapes in the mind. For karma is not a decree, but the echo of your own song.
And there it is there, guys. East meets West. In what we say in Chinese is 两全其美. 两全其美. Sorry, a little bit mistake in the pronunciation. That's okay. 两全其美. 两全其美. Yeah, there we go. There it is there. Or the best of both worlds, right? We take the mechanized engineering aspect of one side of the brain with its analytical function of logic and reason, and then we marry it with, right, an alchemical marriage with the eastern side of its organic, natural, spiritual cultivation of a gardener artist, right? The Chinese doctor views the human body as a garden. You cultivate a little of this hard energy by giving it the right nutrients and nourishment, and this will affect various systems, right? So they look at the body as a whole, living, organic being. Whereas in the West, they look at the body, the doctor of the West looks at the body as a mechanical instrument, right? We can just pull out the heart and throw in a new heart and you're good to go, right? So obviously Western medicine has made some of the greatest gains in immediate treatment of trauma and emergency situations and so on and so forth. But it's that Eastern traditional Chinese medicine that should be the overarching thing that we turn to, right? Like acupuncture and acupressure and herbal medicines. And in fact, in the East, from the perspective of maintaining good health, it starts with meditation and qigong and exercise, diet, exercise, and well rest, right? They say that food is the first medicine, and that yaobu buru shibu, or the efficaciousness of medicine, is inferior to good food, right? So you got to start with that foundation of good, healthy food and cooking and a healthy lifestyle and pure thoughts and so on and so forth. And that will get you closer to good health and longevity. All right, guys, Alan Watts is just about finished with his transmission here. I'm going to let it play out to the end to see if there are any messages from the website that I got this from. It says Alan Watts inspires the real nature of karma. They've got a little like and subscribe thing down there. I'm not sure, so you guys can check that out on your own. I think it's Alan Watts Collections or Alan Watts Reflections. I will put it down in the pinned comment below so you can find the video on your own directly. And yeah, good magic. And then I'll be here to guide you through a brief hypnotic induction for breaking through barriers. And I'll open the panel if anybody wants to come on board and say hello.
It is the way the pattern you are meets the pattern of the world, and the two are not separate. Whatever is given forth returns, not as a reward or punishment, but as the shape of the whole meeting itself in you. The kindness you extend is the kindness you live in. The bitterness you send out is the bitterness you dwell among.
And just briefly to expand on that from Lao Tzu's words in the Tao Te Ching, the man of goodness is good to those who are good, those who are good. The man of goodness is also good to those who are not good, because goodness is the nature of his being. And this applies in all levels of life. The man of truth is truthful to those who are truthful, and the man of truth is also truthful to those who are dishonest or not truthful, because truthfulness is the nature of his being. So what is the reward in being good and truthful? It is a reward in and of itself. When you dwell within truth and goodness, these things are they're self-apparent. You don't need to look for any reward. You know, someone doesn't have to praise you or criticize you for what you're doing. Once you embrace the Tao and join the esoteric order of Dagon here in the Grand Orient, the Eastern Star Division with Frank Monday, then you are a magician. You're an initiate, an aspirant. You go from neophyte, zealater, adept to magus. And when you've achieved the title of magus, right, whatever that may mean in your life, mastery, you move from awareness, recognition, knowledge, and understanding to mastery of the topics within the Tao and the Hermetic sciences. Then you really break free of those chains that bind.
In this, freedom is not escape from the world, but the knowing that you are moving with it in harmony or in discord, and that the music is yours to play.
All right, good magic. There it is there. That was a brief transmission by Alan Watts, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Don't know exactly how long that was, but I will certainly put the link in the doobly-doo down below. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop the link, guys, if there's anybody out there in Happy Land that would like to join me, there it is there. I'll see you backstage. Just make sure you cam up briefly so I know who you are. And as some prerequisites to being on the show, I hope that you're at least mildly sober and well read in the topics. You don't have to be entirely sober, right? But don't come on here slosh drunk in the middle of the night there in the Western world, because realize that it's 3:33 here in Old Peking, and that's in the PM, right? So we're right here in the afternoon after lunch. And as always, just to use the Rastafarian conversation model, which means you talk for a couple of minutes, I talk for a couple of minutes, and then somebody else talks for a couple of minutes, and we share the energy of commiseration and fellowship. There are no debates taking place here. This is not a debate channel. This is a channel that is meant for spiritual growth and learning and mutual fellowship in these ideas, right? So I like to know more about people, the process of individuation. I like to interview folks. I like folks to ask me questions, and I like to fellowship in that way. So with that available to you, what a wonderful thing, guys. We're going to take a short musical break to kind of clear the palate, as it were, as the famous Zetetic Warrior likes to say, right? And so some of the songs I've been enjoying recently are music by Dweller of the Dark. He's got a wonderful channel here on YouTube. You guys can find out more about him. Just do the old YouTube at Dweller of the Dark, and you can experience some of his delightful music. Let me see. I'll just randomly choose one. This one might be one of my favorites. You never know. And the panel is open, guys. The interview stage, the fellowship area, that space is available to you below.
Eagles flying high, cats on the prowl, devils in your bed, their whispers so loud, witches on my heels, so they'll steal, running in the dark, truth they conceal, blood on the walls, spattering a sink. God can't help it then, no time to think. Hounds howl at night, shadows in the light, fear in every breath, eyes wide with fright. Cards dealt by fate, no way to escape. Threads getting tight, can't see the daylight. Blood on the walls, spattering a sink. God can't help the dead, no time to think. Cards dealt by fate, no way to escape. Threads getting tight, can't see the daylight. Blood on the walls, spattering a sink. God can't help the dead, no time to think.
All right. That's a jamming tune, man. I really like that one. I'm glad I chose that one. It's one of my favorites. I've downloaded about 15 or 20 of his songs, but I always seem to grab that one. I really like it. It gives me a jazzy feeling, man. Don't take it too seriously, right? It's just, hey, am I even up here anymore? Wow, where'd Frank Monday go? There he is. There's old Frank Monday. Good looking, sexy motherfucker coming at you once again like Finnegan. And if you've got a yen to expand your kin, then you're in the right place to go Zen, right? Because that was Zen and this is Tao. So we're getting in the now, right? We're getting in the now with Tao, guys. We've got that 100-day challenge coming up, going to be launched off on the autumn equinox. I'm going to be in it to win it, man. I'm going to be fully ingrained in the academic school year, and that'll give me just enough time. Starting tomorrow, I go back to the academy, and then about a month later, I'm going to have time to organize all that material for you. I'm going to be spending 50 to 60 hours a week in the office. I'll be listening to your shows, guys. I'll be paying attention. I'll be keeping a hot eye on you, Jack Talcott, as you engage in life coaching and reformation of the panelverse. Good man, good looking out. I can appreciate it. I get it. I know what you're up to. I'm going to be paying attention to you, Rose 777, and all of your wonderful transmissions over there at Crow Radio. Right, so I'll be paying attention to you guys. And then I also, as well, I'm going to have my eye on Ironwork 92,000, Vlad the blacksmith in the foundry, just pounding the globies flat, man. Good fucking magic out there, Vlad. I appreciate you holding down the fort on that angle. And then KJV London, man, out in the United Kingdom, jolly old England, bringing forth new and revelationary, right, transitions to the realm, right? He's got this entire new model that he's working out and working through every Monday with the Black Sheep Researcher. So make sure you guys get over there and check him out. London_man, KGV and Laylo Productions, doing really good work over there. And then, of course, my daily tune-in, or twice a week, is when The Machine Lies does a huge, like 8 to 10 hour show, man, and digs deep into all the philosophical greats, occultism, esotericism, all of the religions. You know, he's examining theurgy. And if you go over there, guys, then you really need to be sober and well-read with an equanimous mind to be able to grasp all that. You know, with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run the TML ad that I put together the other day when I was on his show. I asked him, I said, Kong, I believe his name is Kong. I said, TML, how would you give a 60-second elevator pitch to your show? And just impromptu, out of nowhere, this is the way he laid it down. Let me see if I can find it, guys. It's only a 2-minute thing. Yeah, there it is. The Machine Lies. So this was the response he gave to that question, straight from the heart and unscripted, from a man with an encyclopedic, well-versed understanding of what's going on in today's world.
The lies of the machine on the machine that lies. Basically, you know, on the stream, The Machine Lies, we're taking a very critical look at technology. So the reason we're doing that is because we're looking at the medium that is used to communicate, right, and transmit information, right? We don't think that any form of mediation is neutral, right, but it's laden with values. And so I think that the well has been polluted by technology. So obviously we take a critical look at technology, right? Okay, we're looking at different concepts in relation to technology, right? In terms of philosophy, right? And in terms of religion. Now, that is one of the main purposes of the show, is that we really look at where technology and religion, science, and spirituality, where those things intersect, right? Because there's a crisis of the modern world in which there's a majority of the modern world is religious people. Their mindset is secular, and the means they employ are secular. We're living in a post-liberal, post-human, post-geological age, right? So we're talking about the death of liberalism, the rise of the world technological system. Now, we do think that, okay, there's a considerable level of, you know, externalization of the ego, okay, and mediation of ourselves through the means we employ. So obviously, you know, we shape tools, but the tools we use shape us, right? So that's one of the main things we're trying to get across on the show, is how technology changes human psychology. If you question the means you employ and what the objective factors of power are in our age, right, then that's the most important question you can ask. Right, that's the most critical stance you could actually take, right? Like most people don't question, you know, how or what means they use to question, to ask the question itself, right? So we're actually taking a critical look at technology, right, as a primary form of communication, as an objective factor of power in our age, right? And we think that basically we're assuming that a lot of the stuff that we see through this medium is totally made up, right, fabricated, and that is based on the fact that it is artifice. It's produced by a machine, right? So we talk about the lies of the machine on the machine that lies.
Yeah. So good. There it is there, guys. So that is TML, The Machine Lies. He can be found in 2 places. He streams from both his backup channel, Cyber Caliphate, and his primary channel, The Machine Lies 9534, I believe. You'll have to look it up. Yeah, just do a YouTube search. I believe it's that. That might be correct. But anybody out there in Happy Land want to come up and banter back and forth a little bit on the ideas of today's show, right? Which are, do we define life too narrowly? Yeah. Are you stuck in a box of your own creation? Have you turned yourself into a bull that can't escape the stockyard due to your horns being too wide, right? And have you defined the roles in your life too narrowly? Maybe you would like to take a step back and clearly examine the parameters that you've put around yourself and discover whether or not those things are holding you back from greater spiritual fulfillment. Yeah. And if so, this is the place to do it, guys. This is the low-lying ground where all people can meet as equals. As the Freemasonic Brotherhood would say, we meet on the level and part on the square. Those words mean a lot. That means we meet eye to eye. We meet on the level, right? This prime material sea level plane, expansive as it is, right? In all directions, surrounded possibly by an ice wall and encapsulated, hermetically sealed with a crystal celestial dome, right? That's probably closer to the truth that we're actually living through than any of these other sci-fi, fantasy, Freemasonic, Disneyland, space Nazi definitions of what's going on out there in the cosmos, right? Don't buy into it, man. It's a fantasy put there to distract you from the firm footing on with which God has set your foundation. And so with that said, guys, that ends the call out and the section where there was an opportunity to participate. And we're going to go ahead and transition now into a hypnotic induction. So for this last part of the show, guys, the last couple hours, I'm here with you today as I wander off into the abodes of the future. I'd like you to take a moment to reflect on today's show and leave a comment down there on the video below. Make sure you hit that like button, guys. And I invite you to take a journey with me, right? Hail unto thee, aspiring neophyte. Take a deep breath. Inhale and hold for 3, 2, 1. Command yourself to relax. As it comes to pass once again, the gossamer veil that separates the tangible physical plane from the subtle metaphysical realms grows ever thinner as we approach the hallowed autumn equinox. This sacred celestial event, a pivotal moment of balance and transition, offers us a unique opportunity to shed the shackles of self-imposed limitations and cultivate the boundless spiritual power that lies dormant within each and every one of us. Let us begin this transformative journey by fixing your gaze upon the pentagonal star in the distance, a sacred symbol that represents the harmonious union of the elements. And it is a gateway to the mysteries within mysteries, that occulted knowledge which has transmitted from ancient times till now. As you focus your eyes upon this simmering sigil, feel your conscious mind growing still, your senses becoming heightened, and your very being attuned to the subtle currents of the unseen world. With each passing moment, the star's 5 radiant points begin to blur, and as you are sinking into its very heart, the flower of life, the boundary between the physical and metaphysical begin to dissolve, and you find yourself standing on the top of an onyx staircase, its ebony steps leading down into the depths of the unknown fathomless cavern. Inhale deeply Wayfarer, and feel the weight of your body as you take the first step, descending one by one into the abyss of the subconscious. With each step, you can feel the tensions in your muscles releasing and the burdens of the material world slipping away. The air grows cooler, more charged with primal electromagnetic energies as you sink deeper into this liminal space between realms. Be aware and be present. 10 steps down, you take 10 levels of consciousness as you explore, until you find yourself standing before an ornate door of a sacred temple, its towering facade adorned with intricate carvings and sigils that glimmer with arcane power. Reach out your hand, Wayfarer, and push open the hallowed door, stepping across the threshold and into a space that transcends the limitations of the prime material plane. The very air is thick with the scent of ancient incense, and the walls are lined with shelves bearing arcane tomes, gleaming ritual books, and other implements of transformation. In the center of this astral sanctuary stands a circular dais, an altar, its surface carved with the sigils of the four cardinal directions. And stepping up to this raised platform, you feel a surge of energy coursing through your veins, as if the very elements themselves are aligning with your presence here. Gaze around you, wanderer, and behold all the tools that await your use. Here is a chalice filled with the purifying waters of life. There, a pentagram representing the solidity of your material form. A dagger that gives you great discernment within the mental realm, and a beautiful magical wand of flaming, enthusiastic power. Besides it, your own ceremonial instrument of your own devising, honed to perfection, that can slice through the veils of illusion and reveal the truth that lies beneath and beyond this realm. And there in the corner stands a brazier filled with glowing embers ready to be stoked into a roaring fire that will burn away inhibitions and self-imposed limitations. Allow your eyes to linger upon these sacred arcane implements, feeling the power resonating within the depths of your soul. These are your arcane items you formed with the astral light and have taken ethereal form. Close your eyes if you would, neophyte, and take a deep, steadying breath. Feel the weight of your body sinking in to the dais beneath, as if you're merging with the very earth itself. Each inhalation and exhalation, visualize the barriers that constrained you once breaking free as your spiritual growth powers you onward. To break through from victory to victory, crumbling away all of the chains that bind you like ash upon the wind. The autumnal equinox approaches, dear Wayfarer, a time of balance and transition, and you stand poised upon the ethereal threshold of a profound transformation. The energies of this hallowed season are aligning to support your cultivation of the arcane arts, to help you shed the shackles of your self-imposed limitations, and to step into the fullness of your intrinsic internal power. So let go, neophyte, aspirant, mendicant, alike. Let go of all those things that no longer serve you. Vexation, annoyance, hesitation, procrastination, any of those things that are binding you. Allow the purifying waters to cleanse your spirit, the ceremonial blade to cut through the veils of illusion, and the roaring flames to burn away your inhibitions. Feel the primordial elements aligning with your will, granting you power and dominion over all of the forces that shape your very destiny and even the fabric of reality. With each passing moment, you can feel the boundaries of your consciousness expanding, your senses becoming heightened, your connection to the unseen world growing stronger. The limitations that have hitherto held you back, the fears that kept you confined in the little boxes of the world, are all dissolving like mist in the morning sun, and it's golden dawn. You are an alchemist, a master of transformation, a wielder of the arcane arts, and you stand upon the sacred dais surrounded by the tools of your craft. You know that the time has come to step into your full power and to embrace the boundless potential that lies dormant within you. So take one final deep breath, aspirant. Inhale and hold for 3, 2, 1, commanding yourself to relax, merging with your holy guardian angel. And when you open your eyes, you will find yourself back in the physical realm, yet forever changed. The veil has been lifted, the mysteries revealed, and you are now equipped with the knowledge and tools to cultivate your spiritual growth and overcome any obstacle and to manifest the life of your wildest dreams. So go ahead, get out there and live. Go forth, fellow Wayfarer, and let the autumn equinox be the catalyst for your transformation as you take part in the 100-day challenge, The Way of Internal Alchemy. Embrace the power of the elements, the wisdom of the occult and arcane, and the boundless potential that lies within you. The future is yours to create, Wayfarer, and the path to enlightenment is yours to walk. Thank you for tuning in to this brief transmission. Francoteric Order of Dagon, here in the central kingdom of the Celestial Dragon, Twilight Zone, Old Peking. As we wander into the abodes of the future, Wayfarer, keep doing good magic, ad astra per aspera, and carpe diem. Feel the love that is available for all, because love is the law. Love under will, and do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Until next time, wishing you good magic, and bye for now, Wayfarer.